Welcome to the 1905 podcast. Joe and I have been going to Stamford Bridge for over 30 years. For the past 3 years, we've been exchanging voice notes on everything from the highs in Porto to the lows of Potter. Each week, this podcast will take you inside our unfiltered thoughts on all things Chelsea, sharing our view from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes. The final whistle has literally just blown on Chelsea 2, Bournemouth 2. Mate, this is a very different voice note than 5 minutes ago. I think 5 minutes ago, I was pretty suicidal with the way that our season was collapsing in on itself. And obviously a draw isn't a great result at all at home to Bournemouth. But at least we didn't lose. And let's see how the other games around us finish with, obviously, as I'm speaking, City and Forest and Liverpool and all drawing. But, oh man, it's the story of the last month, isn't it? In terms of how Chelsea have done in games, which is absolutely dominating in general the first half of these games, having chance after chance, not putting them away. And that's, if you go through the games, that's Everton, we had chances in the first half, didn't put it away. Ipswich, again, first half, we could have had 3 or 4, didn't score. You go through them, Palace, the same. Fulham at home, the same. And then today, in the first half, we were brilliant. Absolutely superb. Jackson kind of summed up who he is as a player, didn't he? Because moment of absolute genius from him to create the goal for Palmer, and what a finish it was. And then just miss his chance after chance when you just need to kill the game off. And in the Premier League, you get that second goal, it just kills it. You know, they go in at half time, heads down, and actually we had it so many times last season, didn't we? The first half of last season, played well, didn't kill teams off, and basically you give them hope. That's hope at 1-0 or hope at, 0-0. Whatever it is, if you keep them in the game, and they, in the Premier League, they'll grow into it. And we were all saying in our little WhatsApp group when we were half time, you were like, I think Smudge said, if we're not 2-0 up after an hour here, we won't win this game. And sure enough, it was 1-1 by an hour. Just feels like, a real problem for us at the moment that we have to sort out, because we're playing too well at times to do this to ourselves. And then second half, let's be honest, we were dominated by Bournemouth. And that is a separate concern, which maybe deserves deeper analysis. But if you look at the Chelsea performances in the last month in the second half of games compared to the first, it's actually mental. The drop-off in performance in all of the stats, second half to first half, is horrendous. Let's finish my note here with a little positive, and it has to be Reece James. What a moment for him. I was screaming at the TV for him to take that free kick. Obviously Palmer, it's been a while since he scored, and it looked a perfect side for Reece. And I was thinking he must have been thinking of a moment like this. The amount of times he's been in that hospital bed and in the training ground wanting a moment to mark his return. And it was just brilliant, wasn't it? When you needed someone to step up and come up with something, it was a superb free kick, just as we needed it. And yeah, it was just a shame that Bournemouth did everything from that point on to try and kill the game and waste time, didn't they? Which the referee let them do. It feels a bit flat, I won't lie. At least we didn't lose the game. But yeah, deeper analysis to come. But that's my immediate reaction.
My apologies if I sound a bit rough. I suddenly feel a little bit ill. All of a sudden, I don't know why, but yeah, my throat's gone a bit funny, and I've been trying to save my voice for this tonight, so I should do my best to get this out as quickly as possible. Possibly one of the worst second half performances I've ever seen. No desire, no hunger, no quality, all the way from the goalkeeper to the fullbacks, the centre-backs. It was gross to watch. Palmer not involved in the second half. Jackson, I don't know what he was doing. Joe, who was so influential in the first half, literally didn't touch the ball in the second half. Noni, to his credit, I actually thought he had a very good first half, and I thought he was the only one who was potentially doing anything for us in the second half. He did managed to conjure up a couple of chances, and without being outstanding, he was probably our best player. Just so disappointing. I'm really gutted. I mean, the saving grace is that Brentford nicked an equaliser at City. As I speak, Liverpool are drawing with Forest. No one's really done anything. West Ham have won, etc. It's not the end of the world. The results haven't really hurt us too much, but this can't carry on. 3 points from 15 now against the opposition that we've played is just not good enough. It's just not good enough. And there's only so many times you can say they're young and they're inexperienced and all that sort of stuff. It can't keep being the theme of everything we say. And when I say we, I mean everybody, not just us. I think that the fans are getting frustrated with this lack of plan B, that we don't have any idea. I mean, he's got a whacking load of players on the bench, and we bring Tosin on at centre back. Oh, I mean, you might as well bring Jorgensen on. It's just, what? I get it. If Nkunku's up for sale and there's a deal to be done there, and you don't want him to get injured, but don't pick him then. If you're not going to play him, if you've got no intention of bringing him on, pick somebody else. I'd rather see Tariq George. To be honest with you, I didn't see the bench. He might have been on there, but put somebody on the bench who's willing to come on, or you're not prepared to get injured and potentially miss out on a sale. This football club needs some experience in it. The lack of leaders in the second half was mind-blowing. As well as they played in the first half, Chelsea, and I want to give them some credit. Well, I'll give them a lot of credit. I thought they were excellent in the first half. They could have had a hatful of goals. But once again, we have to rely on Palmer to get the goal. And if he gets it in front of goal, you feel as though there's a very good chance it's going to go in. If it's anybody else, it's just a complete hit and miss. Jackson's first half performance was utterly bewildering. I mean, he had at least 3 I would class as sitters, and he got nowhere near them. I mean, the one that he leant back for, where Nonny's taken on the defender, wriggled around a few and poked it across goal, and literally all he's got to do is just put his head over the ball and hit it. And he's managed to put it about 40 yards over the bar. I mean, the closest we came in the second half of scoring was when Kukurea kicked it out the ground until Reece James popped up with his equaliser. But you could smell it coming. Even before the penalty, we started so slowly. And the contrast to the beginning of the season, where when we came out in the second half, we all looked full of energy and full of beans. It's gone back to the old Pochettino days. Slow out the blocks, slow start, give the ball away too much, let them get a sniff of joy, whether it be wide areas or shots from distance or, lots of corners. We're just giving them chance and opportunity after opportunity. And I don't know when we're going to break this cycle, but you've got to do it at some point. They're too good. Individually, they're too good. They're just not playing as a team all of a sudden. They are for parts of the game, and then other parts of the game, like the second half, it's like they've never played together. I was so disappointed in the second half. Nothing happened. It was just VAR checks, players going down injured, and to be fair, in some cases, legitimately. And time wasting from throw-ins. There was no cohesion. It never got going. It never flowed well. Oh, my word. It's so disappointing. It's so disappointing. If the football club don't realise by now they need a goddamn goal scorer, it's blindingly obvious. Jackson is a very good player. I do not want to see him sold. I think he's got great potential, but he's not going to get us the top 4. He misses way too many chances. And as for the defence, I said it on my previous note, I love Acheampong. He's a great player, but we can't rely on him for a full half of a season when he's only played one 90-minute game of football for us in the Premier League up until today. You just can't do that. Tosin not solid enough. It's proven. He might be a leader. The Athletic today talking about Tosin the leader, Tosin this, Tosin that. I'm like, have you watched the games? He's all right. He's just bang average. He's nowhere near good enough for Chelsea Football Club on a regular basis. As a substitute, as a free transfer like he came, he does a solid enough job, but he's not good enough. Same for the goalkeeper. Absolutely nowhere near good enough. In the first half, he touched it twice with his feet and he passed once to Bournemouth right outside his 18-yard box, and then he chipped a ball inside our half to their left back. It missed the target. I forget who he was aiming at, probably Maresca. Missed the target by a complete mile. And on both occasions, they went close. The first time, they hit the post. And the second time, they put in a dangerous cross. All from Sanchez not being good enough yet again. He puts the willies up everybody. And there's so many good things to say about this Chelsea team, but you find yourself concentrating on the negatives because they can't seem to get over the pissing line. Every week at the moment is the same. You see the same things. The manager, who I love, by the way, I'm a big believer in him. I really am. But he has got to change his ways. He has got to give his players a chance. At the moment, like you said it, Chris, he's got those three subs, Neto, Nkunku and Felix, just going, what are we doing here? Just warming up on the sideline every 5 minutes. Never going on. The energy that Neto put into the game when he came on in the second half was so much better. I don't know. Just too many things not happening for us at the moment. We seem to just drift out of games. It's like we didn't take any of those chances in the first half, and it's almost like the leash went out of us. But I will say this, Reece James pulling that free kick with 3 or 4 minutes to go in injury time. No one on the planet was more excited than my son when that went in. He's his favourite player by a country mile. He finds it really difficult that he doesn't play. He's been absolutely gutted that he doesn't play. And when that went in, he literally screamed for about 3 minutes. I didn't really see the last 3 minutes of after the goal went in, because he was just dancing around the room, and I let him stay up for that game, and it was a case of, well, you earned that, didn't you? So I'm so pleased for him. I'm going to finish on this because I could talk all night, and it's just going to wind me up even more. We'll talk a little bit more about it tomorrow when we've had a chance to relax. But yeah, I'm so proud of him to come back, and that is just the tonic that he needs. If anybody needed a goal, and a goal that actually meant something, he's got us level for a draw tonight when we probably didn't deserve it in the second half. Reece James is the man to get it, and I'm so proud and so pleased for him. So I'll leave it on that tonight and come back to it in the morning. But yeah, disappointing, very disappointing, very flat, but it could be worse.
Yeah, really well said, mate. I think reality bites, doesn't it, in terms of this season, and it's going to be an absolute fight till the end of the season to get top 4, or as it might be top 5 for the Champions League. The thing I wanted to talk about, I'll talk about 2 things, really. One is the VAR side of it. Obviously, my biggest pet hate in football since it came in. Absolutely can't stand it. And for this reason, really, in the last run of these 5 games, there have been 4 pretty bad decisions, in my opinion, that have gone against Chelsea. And that happens, and it always has done in football. And we've been off the back of some awful ones over the years. Trevoh being the most iconic, arguably, in football history, against Barcelona way back when. And games like that you could never really get over. But in general, you're like, it's one man on the pitch. He's going to see stuff. He's not going to see stuff. He's going to make mistakes. The problem now is they're making mistakes just as they were, but it is 10 times more infuriating because they're watching it back, seeing the same thing you are, and still making the wrong call. And against Everton, we had the Pickford challenge, no penalty given. Okay. Against Ipswich, we had their penalty given, which, again, was never a penalty, clear dive. Okay. Against Palace, you had the Neto incident for a penalty, which would have made it 2-0. Not given. When you look back at it a bit later, you're like, actually, that's a clear penalty. And then you have the Cucurella one tonight, which again, at first glance, I was like, oh, it looks relatively innocuous. You know, you kind of go, fair enough. And then I watched it again. It's gone around Twitter, isn't it, tonight? And you look at it and go, how is that not been given as a red card? He's grabbed his hair. It's clearly revenge for the incident in the first half. And the fact that VAR has told the referee to go and look at the screen and he's still not given a red card is actually a bit of a joke. And surely all they have to say to the referee is, he's grabbed his hair. Go and look at the screen. You can see he's grabbed his hair. That's a red card offence. That's black and white for me. And it's things like that. Chelsea can't complain about that because on its own, clearly there are bigger issues at hand than these decisions are going against us. We are playing, we're not taking our chances. As you say, Jen, that is a major issue. And our second half performances have been horrendous. But in those little micro margins of these games, and they've all been tight margins, let's be fair, in all of these games, it's been, you know, draws, 3 draws and 2 defeats by the odd goal. So then my frustration and hatred for VAR continues. And then the other side of it is Maresca and his kind of unwillingness really to make changes in the second half of games. We talked about it a bit before, about that change really that we've seen from him from the start of the season, when it felt like the squad was very much a squad. And whether, you know, Vega, for example, playing in midfield against Bournemouth in the return game. And the return game actually is almost a perfect example, isn't it? Because he used the squad. He played Vega in midfield that day. He brought on Jadon Sancho at half-time for his debut because I think it was Neto wasn't having a great game. He made that change, didn't hesitate. And then, of course, he brought on Kunku on after about an hour for Nicholas Jackson, who then went on to score the winner. And the lack of that proactivity that you can see in him now with the squad is, number one, concerning for Maresca himself, and I'm not sure what's going on there. But number two is clearly a point of issue with the squad, that he doesn't trust a lot of these the B list, if you like, the ones who have been amazing in the Conference League but haven't done it in the Premier League, and he clearly doesn't trust them. And I think the directors of football and the club have to look to address that in this January window with a couple of big signings. And my gut feeling is that they will, and I think we'll end up doing a bit of business this window, starting with outs. I think there will be quite a few outs. I think the Nkunku noise is going up, isn't it, in volume with Bayern Munich, heavily linked over the last couple of days. I think we've quoted them around £65 million, which I'd be very happy if we could get that return for him. And obviously we're being linked to their young striker in return. We know that Chelsea want a striker like that, a big proper forward. We've obviously got linked to Duran in the summer, who looks like he would have been a great signing. Omarodian, who ended up at Atletico, and clearly they want someone, a box striker, don't they? And we need someone to help out Jackson, as you say, because you just don't trust him. When he has these little spells of missing chances, like you say, it's just so frustrating. So Chelsea have to do something in that position and have someone who Maresca trusts to put on, maybe with Jackson, or to be a box threat and all those kind of things. I mean, personally, I think probably want someone with a bit more experience. I think I'm with you there, Joe, in terms of this squad needs leadership, and that leadership can come from anywhere on the pitch, even up front. And I'd be looking at an option there if you could find one with a bit more experience. But either way, it needs to be someone who Maresca is going to trust and use as their number 9 alternative to Jackson. And Chelsea, I think, will have to get that business done. And I think it'll be Nkunku out on one in. And then the other side is the centre-back, isn't it? And we have to do something there. Fofana, even if Fofana was fit or coming back in 4 weeks, you just don't trust that he could play the season. You can't rely on him. Badiashile, he's a left-sider. For me, he's not the option either, alongside Colwell. He makes me nervous. Chelsea have to do business there. I thought Josh Achapong actually had a decent game, and I felt sorry for him because almost at one time he kind of got done, didn't he, for the goal. I mean, it was a brilliant strike. And is it harsh to say Sanchez gets done on his no post? Maybe. But like you say, you can't be leaning on him to play out the rest of the season. And I think Chelsea need to look at this seriously and look at, if it's Margay who they want, just get the deal done. I don't know why this always happens every window. It's going to go on for the next 2 weeks, right into transfer deadline day, and then there's just too much left to do on the last day, isn't there? So, that it feels like there's a deal to be done there with Chalobah going to Palace and us getting Margay, and I think Chelsea have to do it and bring in a little bit more Premier League experience to play alongside Cole and just help us in that position, because it's a problem.
Yes, mate, as I wake up on a very wet and soggy, foggy morning, it's very apt to the way Chelsea's season's currently panning out. It's looking very foggy and very hazy, isn't it? It's not been a brilliant few weeks. My fear around this time of year is that we drop points around Christmas time and New Year, and we can't seem to shake this off. We just needed a couple of ugly wins, like the Brentford game, but we just haven't kicked on, which is a real shame. I actually thought the first half yesterday was very good. I did think we really did boss it, and Bournemouth, apart from the fact that Sanchez passed the ball out from his own box again, that's the only chance they created to hit the post. Other than that, they weren't in the game at all. But they're playing Caicedo at right back as well as he does in that position. You've got 2 right backs on the bench. Okay, Reece is not maybe fit to start, but you've got Gusto playing there. To me, it's just a pointless thing to do when you've got one of the world's best midfield players playing at right back, and then also when the ball gets slipped through in the second half, he's on the wrong side, and you could see it happening a mile off that he got himself in the wrong position, a tangle of legs, and obviously the ball, the player's going to go down like a sack of shit, which he did, and 1-1, and we're up against it straight away. And it's been a theme, isn't it? A common theme, these second half slow starts. So we had it under Pochettino. I thought we got away with it because, you think go back to the start of the season, games like Wolves, where we turned it around brilliantly, and there was other ones as well. In the second period, we seem to have sort of gone backwards a little bit. Yeah, I mean, not to talk all over what you said, Chris, because I don't want to talk at cross purposes, but yeah, it's just a real kind of dismal few weeks, isn't it? I'd say those 3 points from 15 is nowhere near going to cut the mustard. Obviously, Newcastle, like you say, have got a chance to go above us. Man City are hot on our heels. Villa get a chance to close the gap, and yeah, we're just allowing other teams to come towards us, which is not the Chelsea what we used to. Of teams gone by, we're the front runners, or certainly in that second and third position, pushing on for their number 1 position. And at the moment, we've hit the reverse button, which is just a pain in the arse. I think, unfortunately, with what comes with the big squad is obviously big personalities. They all want to play, and when you don't play them, their form and their sort of confidence and maybe their demeanour sort of drops off a cliff. The case in 2 are certainly Felix and Nkunku. Felix hasn't moaned, certainly, but his form is definitely not brilliant. Obviously, against Morecambe, he looked great, but didn't do a lot when he came on yesterday, although he didn't get a lot of time. Obviously, Nkunku wasn't used, and yes, okay, he might be Bayern Munich bound. If he is Bayern Munich bound, and like you say, let's just get the deal done. We can't be sitting here for another 2 or 3 games, because in another 3 games, we could be bloody 7th or 8th if we're not careful, and that is a real possibility if we don't pick up points soon. We've got always the Man City to come. So, we've got to be very careful the way we approach it. And I hate this getting it down to the deadline day nonsense, because deals fall through and the deals that you wanted suddenly don't become available because, another team suddenly gazumps you or whatever. So, yeah, or another team puts in a bid that makes you put your bid up and you don't really want to do that. And yeah, it all gets a bit messy and sometimes deals don't get done. And I think Chelsea, if they've got any ambition of finishing in the top 4 or 5, they have to do something in this window, which sounds mad. But if it means, getting rid of a couple because they're unhappy or whatever, it might just bring a bit more harmony to the squad, and it might give Felix and 1 or 2 other players a bit more sort of an idea where they stand in the pecking order. Because at the moment, there's just too many players. You look down the bench and you're thinking, well, you could bring him on. And it's just too many options, isn't there, in some cases, which sounds a bit sort of, it's a good problem to have in some ways, but it can be your curse, can't it? Because you're thinking no one's feeling like they're the chosen one. It's I'm the super sub or whatever. They're looking down the line and going, is it going to be him today? It might be me, I'm not sure. Should I warm up? Can't be bothered. And yeah, it's all that sort of stuff. But I think generally, the centre-back position is, like we said before many times, needs to address that, definitely. A forward, if we can. I don't know what our, say, not the PSR so much, but I don't know where we stand in the whole buying and selling players, if we've got enough in the kitty to do it. We can move some things around, who knows? But obviously there will be some outgoings, but we've got to get those done as well. But yeah, just I feel quite flat this morning. But in my own mind, I think we are in the race for the top 4 or 5. But I also think we are now seriously in the race for just the Europa League. And not that I'm thinking about this at the moment, but if the form continues the way it is, we seriously are going to drop down past that. And I'm looking at the Conference League again, which I don't think anybody wants to see. So I really hope that we can get past this now and sort of pick up points sooner rather than later, because before you know it, we're going to be in a dogfight for 6th, 7th and 8th, which is not where we want to be. I think we probably overachieved at the start of the season, which has meant that we're maybe thinking we're better than we are. I still think we are a very good team. I think we've got some fantastic players, but for some reason it's not quite gelling together at the moment. But it won't take long. If they can get a couple of wins, I can see the confidence flowing back and us picking up enough points to sort of certainly get into the Europa League positions, and hopefully we can squeeze into the Champions League as well. But yeah, a disappointing evening all round, wasn't it? Great first half, equally dreadful second half. But like I say, when they all go and they all sort of have a bad performance, they're all doing it at the same time, which is not really acceptable. So yeah, I'm obviously as bitterly disappointed as everybody else that's woken up this morning, but in a weird way, we've still kept our heads above water in those Champions League positions. So, whilst we're still there, we need to believe that we can still do it. And yeah, Maresca's made maybe a few, I'm not say errors, but he's been maybe a little bit naive a few times. He could have changed things quicker. He could have done a few things differently. I'm sure if he had the time back, he probably would. But he's learning on the job, and we just need to give him some time as well. Don't jump on the Maresca out bandwagon and all that nonsense. You do hear that on X and Twitter and all that bullshit. So, if you're one of those, then please get yourself a life. He's a great manager. He's a top man. Leicester had a dodgy spell last year, if you remember, around this sort of time. And then he managed to get himself back around and they won the league quite handsomely. So obviously Chelsea aren't going to win the league this year, but there are definitely all the signs pointing towards, a Champions League finish, which we all would have taken at the start of the season. So fingers crossed we can get back to winning ways against Wolves. And yeah, I'm just really hoping that those VAR decisions will start going in our favour, because at the moment we're getting a few rotten ones. And again, I could speak for an hour on VAR because it's total bullshit. It's crap. Nobody likes it. It's dreadful. We ruin the game completely, in my opinion. And if it was to go tomorrow, I'd be more than happy. But it's never going anywhere, is it? So we got to learn to live with it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I woke up this morning with, just that feeling of sort of disappointment that you get after a bit of a cruddy Chelsea result. You just, to go back to that feeling December when you woke up every morning in the spring in your step and wanted to look at the league table and everything was good. The only thing actually, do you know what the first thing I did think was this morning, and you said it really well, Joe, was I did think about Reece James's free kick and what a moment that was for him. I know we talked about it already, but what you said about your boy, his favourite player, and I was thinking he probably couldn't sleep last night, Reece. He would have been buzzing so much about that. And you said it actually in the last podcast. If we can get a fully fit Reece James to the end of the season, then we saw in that 25-minute cameo what he can bring to the team. And actually, we said it in our first ever podcast in the summer. If you remember way back when we talked about Maresca and the fact that he inverted his fullbacks and one of them went into midfield. And we both said that could be absolutely perfect for Reece with his injury record, not having to gallop down that right wing and obviously knowing that he could play in the centre mid like he did for Wigan. And you saw it, like in that last 15, 20 minutes when we needed a goal, his use of the ball, I mean, we didn't create a huge amount, but his ability to pass through the lines and carry it and all those kind of things, I think if we can get him fit to the end of the season, he will bring so much to the team. And he's a quiet leader, but he is a leader. And actually, in this incredibly young squad, as silly as it sounds, he's one of the more experienced players out there. So I don't think anyone should underestimate what just a huge re-addition to the team he would be. But you just can't get too ahead of it, can you? Because his injury could go at any point. I'm going to disagree with you actually on one point, Joe, because controversially we don't disagree on much. But I think with the Caicedo one, I know that it was said on Twitter a few times and our WhatsApp group as well about him playing in that right back position. But I got the logic. If you look at our best performances this season, I'd argue Villa at home was our best performance. We absolutely dominated, and that was pretty much the team that played yesterday. And it had that Caicedo back at right back, which inverts into a centre mid, and obviously Lavia and Enzo. And you look at the way we played in the first half, we were so dominant, and it was shades of that Villa game for me, and everything was working, and Caicedo in that position was working perfectly. And if we're 3-0 up at half time, similar to the Villa game where we put them out of sight pretty quickly, didn't we? Then we're all saying right now, oh, isn't it great to have that system when you can get all three of them on the pitch, etc. So I get it. I think once it went wrong, and the penalty obviously was naivety from him, it was terrible. Clearly then the narrative shifts, doesn't it? So it was a mistake, and I get that. You got two excellent right backs on the bench. But when the team came out, I saw the logic completely, and I thought, oh, now Levy's back, it's good to go back to that. So I think this is football, isn't it? Like, all these micro decisions are easy in hindsight, but I did get that one at the time. And we didn't mention it, so I just wanted to give a little shout to João Felix, actually, because it was kind of forgotten in the melee of the last, 10 minutes of the game. But he did brilliantly to win the free kick for the goal. If you remember, he showed great feet. It was a great turn, and he obviously got brought down for the free kick, which obviously was a key moment in the game. So again, maybe an example of he is the perfect player, really, in theory, for those last 20 minutes of games when you need someone to do something unexpected. He'll drift in and out of games. We know that's kind of his style, but he does have quality. So I just hope that, that hasn't been missed by Maresca, and he does look for ways to use him a bit more. And yeah, I think we talked already enough about the need for a striker. I think that's pretty clear at this point. The other thing I would say is we do need those wingers to contribute goals. Jackson's having a nightmare in front of goal at the moment, but the wingers aren't offering enough from a goal point of view. If you look at the stats, Madueke's goal numbers are massively inflated because of that hat-trick in the second game of the season at Wolves. And really, he hasn't scored enough goals. Neto scored one league goal. Just talked about Felix. He hasn't contributed in the league. Sancho has got two league goals. And you need wingers in this modern day. You need wingers contributing goals. And I think they're all playing all right. That's the weird thing. I think they're all at times doing well, but we need goals from them. And I think if I'm Estevar Willian looking on, which I'm sure he's watching all the Chelsea games right now, I think he's looking at that and going, do you know what? There is a spot in this team for me to come in and, hopefully he will offer a goal threat from the right-hand side. But I think that will be a big pressing thought in terms of the directors of football thinking, we've got some really lovely wingers, but are they enough of a goal threat? And we've seen from, Liverpool, of past, but even the current Liverpool team, Salah being the obvious one, but they have goals from all over, don't they, with Gakpo and all of the other guys they have in those positions. So I think that is something that Chelsea need to, well, how do you do it? You need to address it in the market, or you need those wingers to start doing more. But yeah, that's all I'll say about this game. And as you say, Joe, it's like everyone needs to relax. The Maresca stuff is silly. 4 weeks ago we were calling him a god and all of that. So I think everyone needs to relax. As you say, I think he's good enough to get through this spell, and I'm sure he will. But God, we need a win.
I mean, it's a totally valid point on Caicedo, and I get it. The narrative will always change, and mine wasn't to be knee-jerk. It was more a case of good managers, and Iriardo is a really good manager, that they start to work that stuff out. And it sounds very silly. It's changed formations. It's slight, not formation changes so much, but actually placement of players within formations. And I think that he'd have looked at that hard time and thought, we're getting no success here whatsoever. And Semenyo in the second half was really, really good. But I just feel as though Maresca is not changing quickly enough with those other managers. If that makes sense. We're sort of, again, a bit reactionary. We're not taking the game to them. I mean, I'm sitting there with 15 minutes to go. We've got all these subs on the bench, and the only player we brought on was Tosin, pretty much. And I'm thinking, oh, for God's sake. But anyway, enough about that. My other point was to do with Enzo. I thought Enzo was really, really good, and I think his performance has been lost in the draw, which was looking like a defeat, wasn't it, at one stage? So he was outstanding in the first half. I thought it was his best performance, and how different he looks when Lavia's in the team. And I don't know why. There's a difference between playing with him and Caicedo, but they do look different. it somehow frees him up a lot more. And I thought his performance, actually, even in the second half, when the chips were down, he was the one that was flying around, winning tackles, trying to get the ball back as quick as possible. But I thought his quality last night from midfield was fantastic. I think he created 7 chances, which is the most he's done all season so far. So, from the central midfield area, it's not that easy to do that. And I just thought he was really, really good. And I think he's definitely worth a mention, because he's had a few critics and a few people sort of moaning and groaning at him over time, and I think he's fully warranted that kind of praise. And just lastly, I know the form's been pretty dismal of late, but things can change the other way really rapidly too. If Chelsea were to suddenly win the next 6 matches, and I know that's a long way off at the moment, it seems, and a tough ask, but it's not improbable that a team like Chelsea couldn't win the next 5-6 games, or win 5 and draw 1 or something, and then before you know it, that sort of form will almost, not certainly, put you in the top 4 and get you there, but it will really make other teams sit back up and notice. So it can be done. We've just got to do it. And our sort of free hits that we've had over the last few weeks have gone. So we've kind of used up our extra lives, as I would call it. If you're going to play Mario Brothers, you've used your lives now, and you need to sort of go into the next few matches and sort of say, well, we've got to win. We've got to beat Bowser whenever he goes. So yeah, it can be done. I'm fully behind them. My reasoning for saying we might finish in the Europa League is that it is a real possibility if the form stays the way it is. But like I say, it can be done, and I hope it can be done.
Yeah, well said, Joe. Enzo was superb, wasn't he? Generally one of his best games, and we've been critical of him on this podcast earlier in the season, but he has really risen. Was brilliant last night. So I'm going to wrap up this podcast by saying I hope you enjoyed it. Joe and I are going to be back whenever anything major happens. So if there is a big transfer story over the next few days, we will do a pod about that, whether it's a big ingoing or a big outgoing. And of course, we'll be back to reflect on the next big Premier League game, which is Wolves, which just feel a must-win game next week. But yeah, we'll be dropping pods when it makes sense, really. So I hope you like the format. Appreciate any feedback you want to give us. The podcast email is hello@1905podcast.com, and you can get in touch via Instagram, which is 1905podcast. Up the Chels, and remember, everything's going to be all right. Oh, wow. Okay, it was literally hitting publish on the podcast, and the news has just dropped that Chelsea have recalled Trevoh Chalobah. Feels like a very, very smart decision, fixing, I would say, a mistake from the summer that all of us saw, really, right from him not going on tour to the US, following a really, really strong end to the season. Last season, he was in the team during that spell when we won, was it the last 5 Premier League games in a row? He was excellent, and every one of us knew he was a better player than Disasi, arguably better Sheila as well. And now we've seen enough of Tosin to say that Chalobah's probably a better player than him as well. So he comes in immediately upgrading the side. Feels like it probably gives you a teaser that Disasi's going to probably be going out the door, which again, if we can get decent money for him, I don't think anyone would be crying about too much. And yeah, I just hope that him personally isn't too affected by the way he's been mucked around a little bit by the club, but he seems like a strong personality, and I think he for sure will be fine. And what a great person and player he looks like to be for someone like Josh Ajipong to learn from as well. My question is, why did they not do it a week ago? I know it sounds silly, it's easy to say that now, but he would have been very useful yesterday, wouldn't he? But yeah, really pleased about that, and I guess it probably means that, well, 2 things really. One is that that is the business from a centre-back point of view. This January, maybe they had a little inquiry about Gay and that the money was too much, so they decided to pull the Chalobah point. And then the other one, linked to what we said earlier, is, does it mean by not spending on centre-back, it opens the wallet a little bit more to go for a forward and a striker, which I think from last night is probably the one that we all feel like we really need. So yeah, very interesting. But yeah, we wanted to drop that in at the end of the pod. Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be alright.